Toyota built the hybrid advantage. China is now attacking it with a loophole about the size of a battery. For more than 2 decades, Toyota made one promise feel almost unbeatable. Buy a Prius, a Camry hybrid, or a RAV4 hybrid, and you could cut your fuel bill without changing your life. No charger in the garage, no app telling you the plug was broken, no road trip mapped around charging stops, just gasoline, a small battery, and Toyota reliability doing the quiet work underneath. That was the advantage. But China is changing the question. BYD-style long-range plug-in hybrids use much larger batteries, electric-first driving, and gasoline engines that behave more like backup than the main event. The car can commute like an EV, then keep going like a gasoline car when the battery runs low. That puts Toyota in an awkward place. Its old strength was efficiency plus trust. China is now attacking the fuel bill and the daily driving feel at the same time. Toyota's system looked secure because it taught millions of people that a hybrid did not need a big battery. The Chinese argument is blunt. What if that was only true when batteries were expensive? The old Toyota formula was brilliant because it solved a real problem with very little hardware. A traditional Toyota hybrid uses a small battery, a gasoline engine, and one or more electric motors. The battery does not have to carry the car for 50 or 70 miles. It only has to help at the moments when a gasoline engine wastes the most energy. Pull away from a stoplight and the electric motor helps. Coast downhill and the system captures energy that would have turned into brake heat. Cruise at steady speed and the gasoline engine settles into a more efficient rhythm. The car keeps passing the work back and forth. To a driver, the magic was that nothing had to change. You filled it like any other car. You drove it like any other car. In return, you got fuel economy that made ordinary gasoline cars look wasteful. That is why Toyota hybrids became such a familiar American answer. A Prius buyer could stay out of the charging debate entirely. A RAV4 hybrid buyer could get family SUV practicality with lower fuel use. A Camry hybrid buyer could keep the sedan routine and still feel smart at the pump. China's new logic starts somewhere else. If the battery is large enough to handle daily driving, the gasoline engine is no longer the star. It becomes the safety net. That one change reaches deeper than it sounds. To see why, start with the constraint Toyota solved first. In the late 1990s, the hybrid problem looked very different. Batteries were expensive. Charging networks barely existed. Gasoline was still the default fuel for almost every household. And buyers who had lived through unreliable economy cars were not going to gamble on a strange new powertrain unless it behaved like a normal vehicle. Toyota's answer was the Prius. The first Prius was not trying to be an electric car. It was trying to make a gasoline car waste less fuel. That distinction mattered. Toyota did not ask the buyer to plug in. It did not ask cities to build chargers. It did not ask families to trust a battery pack for long-distance travel. It used a small battery as a helper, a buffer, and a fuel-saving tool. Think of it like a strong assistant riding beside the gasoline engine. The assistant does not take over the whole job. It steps in during the hardest moments, catches energy that would have been lost, and keeps the engine away from its worst habits. That was clean engineering. The Prius made the idea visible. The shape was unusual, the dashboard looked futuristic, and the fuel economy numbers gave owners something to talk about. In the United States, the Prius became more than a car. It became proof that efficiency could be practical, reliable, and mass-produced. Then Toyota spread the system. Camry hybrid, Corolla hybrid, Highlander hybrid, RAV4 hybrid, and Lexus hybrids all carried the same basic promise into different price ranges. Buyers who would never choose a full EV could choose a Toyota hybrid and feel like they had made the cautious, intelligent move. Over time, that built a moat. Toyota had patents, software tuning, manufacturing discipline, dealer familiarity, and a reputation for long service life. Mechanics learned the systems. Used car buyers trusted the badge. Fleet buyers understood the math. The old industry looked at that and saw a protected position. Toyota had not only made a hybrid, it had taught the market what a hybrid was supposed to be. Small battery, no plug, low fuel use, minimum lifestyle change. For years, that definition was hard to attack. If a rival made the battery much bigger, the car got heavier and more expensive. If the rival added a plug, some buyers asked why they should not just buy a full EV.
If the gasoline engine became secondary, the car needed more complicated power electronics and better battery management. Toyota optimized the narrow path between gasoline and electric. That path was wide enough to dominate. China did not copy that formula exactly. It changed the size of the battery, and by doing that, it changed the job of the engine. The clearest example is BYD's DM-i-style plug-in hybrid logic. BYD is not the only Chinese company working this way, but it is the company that made the idea visible at enormous scale. In cars such as the Qin family, Seal sedan family, and Song SUV family, the basic pitch is different from Toyota's old hybrid pitch. The car is meant to feel electric in normal use. In city driving, the larger battery can move the vehicle without waking the gasoline engine for every short trip. The motor delivers smooth torque from a stop. The cabin feels quieter. The driver gets the clean response people associate with EVs, but the fuel tank is still there for longer journeys. A Toyota-style hybrid carries a small energy day bag. It has enough stored electricity to help during brief moments. Then it constantly refills and spends that energy. A Chinese long-range plug-in hybrid carries supplies for the whole work week, then keeps a fuel station in reserve. That is the loophole. The larger battery changes the driver's routine. If the owner can charge at home, many weekday miles can happen without using gasoline at all. The engine may only show up on highway trips, heavy acceleration, or when the battery has run down. Even then, the system can use the engine in efficient ways instead of forcing it to behave like a normal gasoline drivetrain every second. BYD's DM-i systems are often described as electric-first hybrids. In plain terms, the wheels are heavily influenced by electric drive, while the engine can recharge the battery, assist directly, or support the system when the situation demands it. The exact layout varies by model and generation, but the strategy is easy to understand. Let electricity do the work it is good at, and let gasoline remove the fear that stops many people from buying a pure EV. BYD put hard numbers around that argument. In 2024, BYD launched its fifth-generation DM hybrid technology in China with vehicles including the Qin LDM-i and Seal 06 DM-i. The company claimed fuel consumption as low as 2.9 litres per 100 kilometers under specific conditions, and combined driving range claims around 2,100 kilometers for certain versions. Those numbers need context. Company claims are not the same thing as every driver's real-world result. American EPA testing, Chinese CLTC-style figures, and daily owner behavior can produce different outcomes. But even with that caution, the direction is obvious. BYD is not trying to beat Toyota by making a slightly better small battery hybrid. It is trying to make the small battery definition feel old. The price pressure makes the story sharper. In China, models using these systems have been positioned at mass market prices, in some cases starting around the same territory as ordinary compact sedans. A BYD Qin LDM-i launched in China with a starting price near 99,800 yuan, depending on trim and timing. Converted directly, that looked startlingly low to American eyes, even before tariffs, taxes, dealer structures, and market differences are considered. The point is not that a US buyer can walk into a local showroom and buy that exact car for that direct converted price. The point is that China is proving a cost structure Toyota cannot ignore. But making the battery bigger creates a new problem. Bigger packs cost money. They add weight. They need thermal control,
Battery management, power electronics, and packaging space. If a company simply bolts a large battery into a hybrid without controlling the whole system, the advantage can disappear. That is where the Chinese model becomes more dangerous. BYD's strength is not one component sitting alone. BYD makes batteries, electric motors, power electronics, and whole vehicles under one corporate roof. It also has deep experience from its pure EV business. That gives it a different starting position from an automaker that must buy major components from separate suppliers, negotiate timelines, and fit someone else's battery strategy into an existing vehicle plan. Vertical integration sounds dry, but the idea is simple. Imagine building a kitchen where the stove, cabinets, wiring, plumbing, and appliances all come from separate companies that barely speak to each other. It can work, but every change takes coordination. Now imagine one builder controls the measurements, the parts, and the installation schedule. The room can be tighter, cheaper, and easier to revise. That is what BYD is trying to do with cars. The Blade battery is the proof object most people recognize. BYD designed it around lithium iron phosphate chemistry, often called LFP. LFP batteries usually trade some energy density for cost, stability, and durability advantages. In normal language, they are not always the smallest way to store energy, but they can be a very practical way to store it cheaply and safely at scale. BYD's Blade battery packaging places long cells in a structure that helps use space efficiently. The company has promoted safety tests around this design, especially puncture demonstrations, although those demonstrations should be understood as company-controlled proof points rather than a complete picture of every crash or abuse case. Still, the business meaning is clear. BYD has a battery story it can put into cars, hybrids, buses, and export models across a wide production base. That matters because a long-range plug-in hybrid lives or dies on battery cost. If the battery is too expensive, the car lands too close to a full EV price. If the battery is too small, the car feels like an old hybrid with a plug added. The winning zone is in the middle. Enough electric range to change daily behavior, but low enough cost to stay mass market. Toyota's engineering culture was built around a different kind of excellence. It values proven systems, slow validation, manufacturing consistency, and reliability over fast public experimentation. That culture is the reason a 10-year-old Toyota hybrid can still command buyer trust. It is also the reason Toyota has often been cautious about large battery commitments compared with some Chinese rivals. That caution made sense when batteries were expensive and charging was uncertain. It looks less comfortable when battery prices fall, Chinese factories scale quickly, and buyers start expecting EV-like driving, even from vehicles with fuel tanks. The reversal is precise. Toyota optimized the small battery hybrid better than anyone. BYD-style systems exploit the battery cost curve to make the plug-in hybrid feel more like an EV, without fully giving up gasoline. This is a fight between two definitions of practical efficiency. Toyota's old definition said efficiency means using gasoline more intelligently. The Chinese plug-in hybrid definition says efficiency means avoiding gasoline most days, then using it only when electricity is inconvenient. The real test is whether that stays on a spec sheet or starts moving in actual car markets. In China, it is already visible on the street and in the sales charts. BYD has become one of the country's dominant new energy vehicle makers, and plug-in hybrids are a major part of that rise. Its sedans and SUVs are priced for ordinary buyers, not only luxury early adopters. Public spec sheets show long-claimed combined ranges, low fuel use figures after the battery is depleted, and electric ranges that can cover many commutes. Walk around one of these cars and the pitch is not hard to understand. There is a charge port on the body. There is a gasoline filler door on the other side. Inside, the driver sees a modern screen, smooth electric launch, and a fuel gauge that makes long trips feel normal. That combination is powerful because it speaks to the exact buyer Toyota trained for decades. A Prius buyer wants low running costs. A Camry hybrid buyer wants dependability. A RAV4 hybrid buyer wants family usefulness without punishing fuel bills. None of those buyers necessarily wakes up wanting an EV identity. They want a vehicle that makes sense. The Chinese counteroffer is built to sound just as practical. Charge at home and commute on battery. Keep gasoline for the weekend trip. Visit gas stations less often. Avoid the anxiety of arriving at a broken charger with kids in the back seat. Use electricity where it is cheap and convenient, and gasoline where it is fast and familiar. That is why the threat to Toyota is deeper than fuel economy ratings. A Toyota hybrid can post excellent miles per gallon. Depending on the model and trim, a Prius can top 50 miles per gallon under EPA testing. And a Camry hybrid or RAV4 hybrid can deliver numbers that embarrass traditional gasoline cars. That is still impressive, but a plug-in hybrid buyer does not experience efficiency only as a rating on a window sticker. The buyer experiences it as the number of days the engine stays off, the number of gas station visits skipped, the feeling of pulling away silently every morning, the way a short errand uses battery power instead of gasoline. That changes the emotional comparison.
Toyota's advantage used to be that it made the efficient choice feel normal. BYD-style long-range plug-in hybrids are trying to make the normal choice feel electric. BYD's launch events have leaned into this. The company does not simply say the cars are hybrids. It talks about long range, very low fuel consumption, and prices that make older assumptions wobble. Chinese public spec sheets give buyers a simple story. This sedan can drive like an EV around town, travel far with gasoline support, and cost less than many people expected. That is why Toyota's position in China has become more difficult. The Chinese market moved faster toward electrified vehicles than many Western markets. Local brands learned to compete on screens, software, battery range, price, and frequent updates. A Toyota badge still means something, but it no longer controls the definition of the sensible electrified car. In the United States, the situation is different. Chinese branded cars face tariffs, regulatory barriers, and political scrutiny. Toyota's dealer network is enormous. RAV4 hybrid or Camry hybrid is easy to service, easy to insure, and familiar to used car buyers. That matters. But product logic travels before products do. Once buyers see that a plug-in hybrid can behave like an EV during the week and a gasoline car on a trip, the question spreads across borders. Toyota, Honda, Ford, Hyundai, and other automakers all have to respond to that expectation. The category begins to shift. A hybrid is no longer automatically understood as a gasoline car with electric help. It can also be an electric car with gasoline insurance. That is a much harder battlefield for Toyota because it moves the fight toward battery cost, electric motors, power electronics, and software control. Those are areas where China has spent the last decade building scale at a speed few Western or Japanese incumbents matched. Once that logic works in one sedan or SUV, the next question is what happens to the entire hybrid category. Toyota's strategic problem is that its old advantage solved yesterday's fear perfectly. The fear was, I want better fuel economy, but I do not want to plug in. Toyota answered that fear better than anyone. The newer fear is different. It sounds more like this. I like the way an EV drives, but I do not trust charging enough to rely on it completely. That is the opening Chinese plug-in hybrids are attacking. For a household, the math can feel simple. If the daily commute is 25 or 40 miles and the car can cover it on battery, gasoline becomes a weekend tool. If electricity at home is cheaper than gasoline in the local area, every charged mile can feel like a small bill avoided. If the family takes a long trip, the engine removes the need to gamble on chargers along the route. The car becomes a bridge. But it is a different bridge from the Prius. The Prius was a bridge from gasoline waste to gasoline efficiency. A BYD-style long-range plug-in hybrid is a bridge from gasoline dependence to electric routine. Those are not the same destination. That distinction matters for Toyota because the company's brand strength is tied to trust. Trust protects Toyota when buyers worry about repair bills, battery life, resale value, and service. But trust does not fully protect a product definition if the market starts to prefer a different one.
There is a balanced way to say this. Toyota is not suddenly weak. Toyota still has enormous advantages in the United States and many other markets. Its dealer support is deep. Its resale values are strong. Its manufacturing discipline is proven. Its hybrid reliability record is one of the strongest in the industry. A buyer choosing a Camry hybrid or RAV4 hybrid is not making an irrational choice. Toyota also understands hybrid control software at a level few companies can match. The smoothness of the engine-motor handoff, the long-term durability, the way the system behaves after 150,000 miles, and the confidence of a known service network all matter to real households. Chinese long-range plug-in hybrids also face real barriers outside China. Tariffs can destroy the price advantage. Brand trust takes years to build. Service networks are expensive. Safety certification and emissions rules differ by market. Political scrutiny can slow or block entry. A low Chinese sticker price does not automatically become a low American driveway price. Those limits matter, but they do not erase the change in the basic question buyers are being asked. For decades, Toyota could ask, why take a risk on a plug or a big battery when a proven hybrid gives you excellent fuel economy with no lifestyle change? China's answer is now asking something sharper. Why settle for gasoline efficiency when a larger battery can handle most of your real driving and still leave gasoline in reserve? That is a dangerous question because it does not require every buyer to love pure EVs. It does not require a perfect charging network. It does not require giving up the long trip habits people already understand. It shifts the center of the vehicle away from the engine. The gasoline engine becomes the backup plan. The battery becomes the daily driver. That is the part Toyota has to take seriously. If the customer's definition of a good hybrid changes, Toyota's greatest advantage can remain respected and still become less decisive. The callback is simple. Toyota's original hybrid compromise made perfect sense when batteries were expensive, chargers were rare, and buyers needed proof that electrified cars could be reliable. A small battery was not a weakness in that moment. It was the smartest way to make the whole idea affordable and normal. The Prius proved it. The Camry hybrid carried it into the mainstream. The RAV4 hybrid turned it into a family SUV answer. Toyota built a generation of trust by making the complicated feel ordinary. China is not attacking that history by building a better Prius in the old sense. It is attacking the definition underneath it. A BYD-style long-range plug-in hybrid sits between categories. It is not a pure EV because it still carries gasoline. It is not a traditional hybrid because the battery can dominate daily driving. It is closer to a vehicle that says electricity should handle normal life, while gasoline should handle the exceptions. That is why the threat is quiet. It does not look like a dramatic single knockout. It looks like a change in buyer expectations. The old hybrid question was, how much fuel can this car save without asking me to plug in? The new question is, how many days can this car keep the engine off without asking me to trust charging completely? Once that question takes hold, Toyota's advantage is no longer uncontested. It may still win with reliability. It may still win with resale value. It may still win with American buyers who know the dealer down the road and trust the badge on the hood. But the center of gravity is moving. China is competing with the idea that a hybrid should be a gasoline-first machine with electric assistance. The strongest reveal is not that Toyota is finished. That would be too simple, and it would be wrong. The stronger point is that China is trying to make Toyota's definition of a hybrid look old. Toyota built the hybrid advantage by proving a small battery could make gasoline smarter. China found the pressure point by making the battery large enough to change the whole driving routine. That is why this fight matters beyond one BYD sedan, one Toyota Prius, or one spec sheet. It is a fight over what practical electrification is supposed to mean for normal drivers. If this kind of breakdown is useful, subscribe to Future Shift Report. We focus on the machines, companies, and engineering shifts that make old assumptions look less secure than they did a few years ago. And here is the practical question. If a Chinese long-range plug-in hybrid gave you EV-like daily driving, gasoline backup for road trips, and lower fuel use when charged, would you choose it over a Toyota hybrid? Or would Toyota's reliability record, dealer network, and resale strength still win your money?